everyone in Colorado should be very concerned about grid reliability. This is actually a matter of life and death.
You've missed her, I've missed her, but she's back in town. Amy Cooke, the energy czarina of, well, Colorado and the nation now. Thanks for being here.
Actually, I like the title. If only I were the czarina. Think of all the good we could accomplish.
Like what?
It would be authoritarianism.
You are already
for good,
authoritarian.
For good.
For those who don't know, Amy was a key part of what we did at Independence Institute until she sued me for sexual harassment and left. But now...
It was part of the settlement.
It was part of the settlement.
Actually, the part I required.
Part of the settlement was that she had to come back and help us with our energy policy work. So.
Yeah. Wait a second. What kind of... who was my negotiator?
Bad negotiator. Before we get into what you're doing in energy, which is mind-boggling, particularly here in Colorado, to show the costs of the new energy.
You mean the real costs? Like what things are actually going to cost?
Those costs. Let me ask you the general question. A long time ago when I asked you to do something on energy, you didn't seem all that turned on by it. We had to do an article on energy, and I was looking around and said, well, Amy can do anything. Amy, would you please write this up?
I love your revisionist history.
And you are, and well, then it goes like this. No, I don't want to. I hate you. I hate you. I hate you. But it has become such a passion of yours that energy policy is not just about kilowatts. You really understand the power about power.
That's hilarious. That's actually good.
Thank you. I'm a marketer.
No,
what is it about this area that is so human to you?
Energy is a new economic paradigm. It's in everything. So your food prices are more expensive because it costs more to power the factory where something is processed. It costs more to run the farm. It costs more to, build the truck that has to that has to transport the stuff. It is in everything. We as conservatives for a long time ignored energy because we were so enamored with tax rates. Great. Well, except for the fact that the biggest tax hike is the one you likely never voted on. And it is the one you pay every single month. So, and I actually did this math because it's the kind of stuff I do for fun is, and this will go back to 1999 Independence Institute. Commissioned a paper with Wayne Cruz, who I believe was at CEI.
CEI, yeah.
The cost per kilowatt hour for electricity, 5.9 cents per kilowatt hour, which was probably below the national average, but probably about in line with the rest of the Mountain West.
Right.
So I recently paid our XL bill for Colorado, or the one, for our house in Greeley, and it was just shy of 16 cents per kilowatt hour. So in the last 23 years, it's gone up, about 2.7 times, far greater than the rate of inflation. And it's nothing you ever really voted on. What you did vote on, what we in Colorado voted on, were the legislators who we put into, under the Gold Dome, who then passed all of these bills, signed mostly by Democrat governors, that is now making our power almost 3 times more expensive. It is the new economic paradigm.
It's a way to keep poor people poor, because now they're working just to keep their homes heated. But let me push back. No, that can't be, because since you looked at that back in 19...
That was 1999, and I wasn't even here yet, but I have the documents.
Since 1999, the fuel that powers our state has gone down in price. Furthermore...
Yeah, it's zero. It's free.
It's free. No, not that. I'm talking about fossil fuels. Natural gas, coal, for the last 25 years has been on a steady decline of cost. At the same time, the amount of energy we use because of technology and conservation is also going down those last 25 years. Therefore, by any economic theory, when your demand is low, the supply is high, the price will be lower, much, much lower. So you must have misread your Excel bill, because if the inputs for energy are at an all-time low and demand is at an all-time low, prices have to be at an all-time low.
It's the beauty of socialism, isn't it? Because you know what? Actually, while per capita energy use might be less, we actually are using more electricity because the population has increased. And the demand will continue to increase. And here's the worst part. Because of EV mandates coming from Jared Polis, also from the electrification, what we call the electrification of the economy, EVs, buildings, everything else, the growth in demand, the demand for electricity will go significantly higher, as will the cost. Or your other option is to not have power, which means rolling blackouts. And people like you, people like me, who aren't the wealthy ones, we will be the ones who will be, when the rolling blackouts come, our neighborhoods are the ones that will be affected. So to your point, if the price of the fuel goes down, and if we're getting more efficient with our use of it, why aren't prices going down? That's a great question, but that is not the way it works in electricity generation. But the thing is, hold on. Here's the difference. Here's the key, because I know you want to say something. In Colorado has pursued this fantasy of wind and solar powering the state, which of course should make it even cheaper, right? Because
I was just going to say,
free. They're free.
Listen, lady, the sun shines for free.
The wind blows.
The wind blows for free. Therefore, again, the fuel cost is going down, so therefore the prices should be going down, because this is free energy.
It's all free, and that you sound just like, oh my God, Ron Binns and some of the others at the state legislature back in the early 2000s. Here's the thing. Converting wind and solar, converting the sunshine and the wind blowing into electricity is super expensive. It's really, really expensive, because now I don't want to get too geeky, but it's dependent upon the weather. So let's just say there's a day when the sun doesn't shine. We don't have a lot of those in Colorado, but let's say it's a day right after a very heavy snowstorm.
We've used a lot of electricity because now we've gotten rid of natural gas appliances, natural gas heaters, all the rest. So we're energy electrified. This is terrific. And we've had a cold, cold snap, and the sun doesn't shine.
The sun isn't shining, or it's covered with, let's say,
snow.
8 inches of snow, which isn't unrealistic. You can't produce power. It's weather dependent. It relies on the sun shining, and when the sun doesn't shine or the wind doesn't blow, if you actually want power, if you want the lights to come on, if your kid's lying on the operating room table and you actually want them to be performing surgery in something other than candlelight, you have to have backup resources. So what you end up doing is you build redundancies. So you build double the amount. And if we are to power our state using only wind and solar, as the governor has said repeatedly, it's going to be 100% renewables. When somebody says something, take them at their word. We will have to build out about 10 times the generation capacity that we have right now in order to try and power the state. And we'll still have times where we won't have enough power. So.
No, let me get to that. No, I'm challenging you on this one.
Okay.
You just said, if we're going to go all renewable, that we will need to build 10
Actually,
times.
I think it's more than that. I think it's 14 times. I'm trying to remember, but it's like at least 10.
And even then, during high demand periods, we will still have blackouts.
Yeah.
Knowing the answer to this, Where did you come up with these crazy numbers?
I know, right?
You just pulled them out of a hat. See what I did there? Huh?
I can tell that this actually goes on a PBS station or something.
It's the whiskey.
Yeah, well, yeah, it makes you kinder and gentler.
It does. And my thanks to Keeper's Heart, the official whiskey of Devil's Advocate.
I didn't know that. Oh, well, great. It is now.
It is now. They don't know it either.
It is. Lucky them.
There goes their sales.
So we actually, I was working with Jake Fogelman, excellent energy policy analyst at the Independence Institute. I don't know who's responsible for hiring him, but he is spectacular. So
let me see who did hire him. It was a couple years back.
I think Dave was the first one.
Okay.
Yeah.
I thought it was you.
No, I didn't hire him.
Okay.
I wish I would have stolen him, but anyway, working with Jake, we actually did a series of 3 papers where, and it was building off of a paper we did in 2019 because at the time, Governor Polis, he was running on 100% renewable energy. I mean, was that 2016, he ran 100% renewable energy, and nobody would ask, how much is this going to cost? They wouldn't, can we do it? They didn't ask how much it would cost, and I kept tweeting, and we kept saying, how much is this going to cost? No one would ask. So we said, okay, well, if no one's going to ask, we're going to try and figure it out because the governor wouldn't give us any figures. So we figured it out, and we worked with the Center of the American Experiment in Minnesota, who has 2 energy policy analysts. One has a master's degree has a graduate degree in economics and does economic energy modeling. So he created the model. We were able to figure out how much it would cost to power the state using 100% wind and solar and batteries, which don't even exist. But he was going to do, batteries were going to be a part of it. So we figured the cost, plus we figured the land use, both of which at the time I thought, this was in 2019 when we did this, I thought, I can't publicize this.
So let me see if I got this right. You came up with results.
Yeah,
and the results were so outlandish.
I thought it was a lie.
You could not, with a straight face, publish these numbers.
And we did, but we didn't make a big deal
because it seemed so wild.
It seemed something like in the stratosphere. It was like this is crazy.
And what happened?
So we put it out there, and by the way, the number with all of it was just shy of $900 billion with the B dollars
to build out this.
To build out wind, solar, and batteries, and that wasn't even taking everything into account. But that was wind, solar, and batteries, and no one took us seriously. And to some extent, I can kind of see why it was a crazy number. Nobody would have believed it. So. Fast forward, it's 2023. Polis and the left continue to double down on this 100% renewable. Meanwhile, just so you know, other states out there are doing much smarter things. They might have a clean energy goal or a carbon neutrality goal.
I want to get into that in a little bit.
But they aren't crazy, know. So they're doing it in a much better way. So. I come back to help Jake work through this. What started out with the green building codes, and what we did was a series of 3 papers looking at what the cost is going to be now with 100% renewable, plus EVs, plus electrification of buildings, and with the batteries and everything, the all-in cost of it. And what we found now is the prices come down a little bit. $700 billion. So you feel better. Feel better. So what we realize is, oh my gosh, this is actually, this is true. The modeling has improved. But the key that we've been able to do this time, John, that I think is most is most interesting, besides the fact that it's going to cost $700 billion, we actually are able now to model for reliability. So if you put a price on reliability, like for instance, you think it's important that
your heat works all the time,
right? Or that when it's 2 below zero that you have power in your house. We've been able to model that, and even if you were to do everything perfectly, our prediction is we will have somewhere around 35, 36, maybe upwards of 40 hours where we will not be able to, and this is based on years, in various years. I mean,
we could have, depending on the weather, a work week without power.
Yes.
Spread across.
Right.
Let me, while you take a sip of vodka, let me put out this thought, which is the promise of 100% renewable seems like putting the X on the wrong mark, which is we want to do this environmental thing. And so what we want is 100% renewable. Why renewable? Isn't the goal to be environmentally sound? Isn't it to have zero emissions or zero carbon or other things, not necessarily directing what the technology is, because technology changes? Why put the X on renewables instead of the X on some sort of limitation on CO2?
Right, which would make it a much better. So if the policy outcome is what you actually want is cleaner air.
Yeah, do you want cleaner air or do you want renewables? Are they mutually exclusive?
Yes. Just because you have 100% renewables does not mean you have cleaner air. It does not necessarily, because if you look at the CO2, if you look at the total emissions from start to finish of solar panels, there was just a study out of Italy that said if you look at the total processing of solar panels from start to finish, you don't lower global emissions. This is a global problem.
So Colorado can say, hey, we're all renewable here, but the chemical spewage from building this stuff still affects the entire globe, which is what we're trying to protect.
So the life cycle of a solar panel is not zero emissions. The life cycle of a wind turbine is not zero emissions. So if your goal is cleaner air, and what do they say? Existential threat facing the planet, they talk about greenhouse gas emissions or climate change or whatever whatever the word du jour is. But wind and solar is not the way to solve it. Michael Schellenberger has been just phenomenal on this. He said,
the reporter.
Yeah, well, actually, Michael Schellenberger, who wrote this phenomenal book called Apocalypse Never, and he literally apologized for his. Maybe that might be overstating it, but what he did was talk about the regret he had to adding to the climate hysteria and climate alarmism. And he's a nuclear advocate. He said it's amazing how the people that scream the loudest about climate change and you have to stop it now are the biggest opponents of the cleanest form of energy, which is nuclear. They are the biggest obstacle to nuclear power.
I'll talk about nuclear.
We could solve all of this with nuclear energy.
When you put up wind farms and you put up solar farms, you have to have backup generators. You have to buy 2 power plants instead of 1. For when the sun doesn't shine, the wind doesn't blow, they have backup natural gas generators, which pop up pretty quickly, turn on pretty quickly, and that's what you have. So the beautiful thing for Xcel Energy, or any power utility that likes to build things, is you get to buy 2. Why buy 1 when you could buy 2 at twice the price and pass the cost on to your customers and then add 10% profit to it on top of that? So Xcel is not in the energy business. They are in the building crap business and triple charging their captive customers for it.
So you're not wrong about the business model, 100% agree, but I blame the legislature. The legislature created the environment that allows Xcel to do that. And then Jared Polis, we have We probably have, when I say we in Colorado, probably have the worst Public Utilities Commission. Certainly
As
in my
measured
time.
by what?
Well, so we have two people that were solar developers in the past that sit on the commission. Can you imagine if we had two oil and gas guys sitting on that commission? You know what we used to have in the past? You know what used to sit on the commission? Regulatory attorneys that actually got it, attorneys that actually knew this stuff.
Not people who already chose the winners and losers.
That's right.
From an industry. And the way you put it, that's just worth repeating. If you had oil and gas executives on the PUC, could you imagine what the left would do? Imagine what the media would do, how awful it would be. But you have people from the solar industry and advocates on the PUC.
These are people who seem to think of themselves more as energy secretaries for wind and solar than they do as neutral regulators of running a government agency.
And this gets back to Polis personally. Those people are appointed by the governor solely. These are his folks. Something that most people don't know is that for a long time there was kind of a grand bargain on energy monopolies. Yes, Xcel, you are going to get a monopoly. You're going to get a guaranteed profit. You buy a pen or a pencil, you got to add 10% to the cost and you get a profit on it. Anything you do, you turn left, you turn right, you're going to get a guaranteed profit. I think last year they made 14% profit. I don't know anybody else who is returning that kind of.
Well, we should all be invested in that.
We should. But the guarantee was, the bargain was, you get all that free money and no competition, but you have to answer to the PUC that you are doing it at the lowest cost, that you will provide our customers, our people, with the lowest cost, and then you get a guaranteed monopoly. That's the bargain. That bargain got changed. And you have to remind me of the story, but instead of saying our first goal at the PUC is low-cost, reliable energy, and now it is a fluffy butterfly term of rainbows and unicorns and environmental awareness at reasonable cost.
Well, it's actually,
once you open that floodgate, the PUC is not the safety valve on a monopoly. They are the enabler for a monopoly to make money hand over fist.
Well, what that is, so that was under Ron Binns, and Ron Binns, who was chair of the PUC, he was appointed by Bill Ritter. You might remember that a few of us got together and helped publicize some of Ron Binns' deeds, so he couldn't be chairman of the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission,
which he was chosen by Obama.
He was chosen by Obama.
I feel really bad that we scuttled that.
Yeah,
you scuttled that.
We have more than one person that has thanked us for that. But that was Ron Binns. So it used to be that the mission of the PUC was least cost, reliable power, and then, to your point, they'd get a guaranteed rate of return. Okay, that's fair. If 5.9 cents per kilowatt hour, if that had kept up with inflation, if it had just stayed even with inflation, we'd probably be, I don't know,
8 cents,
9, maybe 10 on the out. I mean, maybe, but we're not. We're far higher than that. What Ron Binns did was change the mission of the Public Utilities Commission to be, reliable power at a reasonable price, consistent with the social, economic, and environmental values of the state of Colorado. So what the
hell does that mean? What a pile of oatmeal. That's whatever you want it to be. That's a Rorschach test.
That's exactly right. So what that means, that's a signal to, your monopoly utility to, if we tell you to do something, do it, and then we're going to reward you. And that's essentially what they've done. One of the fights we had was fuel switching, which was House Bill 1310 back in 2010. And that's where
a day which will live in infamy.
Right. And if you remember, well, I only remember because
because it was awful.
And I feel like I've got the battle scars still left.
And God bless Republicans for making it happen.
Don't even get me started. But Ron Binns, the chairman of the Public Utilities Commission, was negotiating the cost recovery language on that legislation, unbeknownst to the public. So the guy who's supposed to be calling balls and strikes was
protecting customers first.
Right, was negotiating the cost recovery language behind closed doors with legislators and Excel.
How unethical.
It's horrible. It's absolutely horrible.
Which gets back to the whole unethical way we do energy in Colorado. I'm going to continue with the fuel switching. So this is the way I put it. We have the Comanche power plants. Tell me what I've got wrong, which is...
I'd be happy to.
I shouldn't even had to say that. So they're coal. Terrific. And then we upgrade it to the world's most clean coal plant on the planet.
Which we paid for.
So we now have 2 mortgages for the same electricity. That coal plant is set to retire in 2070. So close to 50 years from now. So again, we're paying 2 mortgages. But along comes the fuel switching, and now we're going to demolish it and put up something else. I think it's going to be either a natural gas or something else. Point being, whatever it is, it is now we're paying 3 times. It's like buying 3 houses, but you only live in one house. Now we're paying 3 times over for the same kilowatt. No wonder your bill is up.
Right.
And who gets wealthy? The cronies at Excel.
There's also another thing in this. The wind and solar lobby are some of the largest lobbying groups, especially at the federal level. But listen, do not underestimate the power of the wind and solar lobby too. Also, the environmental left lobby, the Sierra Club, the NRDC, the settlement with Comanche, which is why we paid for all of the environmental upgrades on Comanche, was thanks to the Sierra Club, because Sierra Club was part of, and Western Energy Alliance? No. It's the, mind is a terrible thing as you get older, but let's put it this way, a cabal of environmental left groups led by the Sierra Club, NRDC, others, sued over Comanche. They got the settlement that included all of those environmental scrubbers. So, and the latest and greatest technology, to your point, to make Comanche some of the most environmentally friendly coal-fired power in the country. It's one of the greatest plants. So, the environmental left celebrated that. Then they come back again. And that wasn't enough. It wasn't enough for us to pay for all of that. Now they want to shut down these assets that we're paying for or have paid for.
That are supposed to last for the next 50 years.
That we won't get to use, because enter the environmental left and the people under the Gold Dome that are now allowing all of this to happen. Excel's willing to do it because as their asset base goes up, to your point, 10% of 10 billion is a whole lot more than 10% of 5 billion. So they're more than happy to build, but it's the legislature and it is the governor. They're allowing all of this. They're not just allowing, they're encouraging it. And they're, the environmental left, the Sierra Clubs of the world that are suing over this. That's why we're paying for all of this.
And it's amazing that while their guaranteed profit goes up, our costs go up, and the shareholders of Excel pay nothing. So there is no reason for Excel not to go with the most lavish, biggest, gold-plated wind farm plans that you could have, because the bigger it is, the more they make. There is no cost to them, unlike a regular business, to try to economize. There's no reason to do it.
No, there is no reason. But again, someone's allowing them to do it. It's like if you have a rattlesnake and you don't think it's going to bite you, you're out of your mind. And if you let it out, it's going to.
But people honestly want a cleaner environment. You can't blame voters for saying, "Oh, a cleaner environment, save the planet, cost a couple extra pennies." Yes, we'll do that.
This is not about a cleaner environment. This is about wind and solar profiteering. If the people at the state capitol, if our state lawmakers here in Colorado actually cared about a cleaner environment, nuclear would be at the top of their list. It's not. Jared Polis says, well, if it made more economic sense. You know what? He obviously hasn't looked at the economics of it because it makes far more sense. Our paper has shown it. First, it showed it in 2019. It shows it again in 2023. And it isn't just our paper. Papers like these are throughout the country. All you'd have to do is look at it. But you know what? They are so in bed with wind and solar profiteering. Now, solar at a small level, rooftop solar, somebody wants to generate their own power, go for it, knock yourselves out. At an industrial scale, it makes absolutely 0 cents, and less than 0 cents.
The governor has been using a term he likes a lot for geothermal energy. He talks about the heat beneath our feet. To which I say, you mean coal and natural gas? And he goes, no, geothermal. And that this is how we're going to get to 100% renewable, is he's excited about this still pretty unproven technology of geothermal, which works on some small scale, but not in any industrial scale that I'm aware of. There's a pilot program someplace. Why won't he be right on that, or will he?
I think he wants to because geothermal is actually a promising technology. I mean, it really is. The funny thing about it is you actually have to drill a well, and you have to fracture to get the heat out. So it's
whoa. Excuse me.
Don't say it out loud.
No, I want to hear this. The guy who was for fracking bans.
Yeah.
The guy who was putting the oil and gas industry out because they don't like fracking. In order to make geothermal,
you have to drill a well. Yeah, you have to drill.
Frack.
You have to get the heat out somehow. The heat you have to make it, just as you have to have natural gas, to get oil and shale oil and gas, you have to fracture it to get it to release. You have to do something similar. I mean, it doesn't just, it isn't like.
Tell me why I take just such delight in the fact that in order to get his pipe dream of renewable energy, you have to do hydraulic fracturing.
Well, you're going to have to do some kind of fracturing because you have to drill the well and you have to get it out. I mean, it doesn't just neatly come up. I mean, it's a cool technology. I think it's great. But it isn't as simple as I'm going to put a spigot in the ground and all of a sudden all this heat shoots up.
We're going to have generators on it.
Yeah. Let me plug in the heat. You actually have to. It's a resource that needs to be developed. It's no different than developing coal or natural gas. I mean, you have to. I shouldn't say no different. That's not entirely true. It's a resource that has to be developed. And I think we can do it. I'm one of these people who actually thinks we can develop our resources and do it responsibly because we've proven that we can. Air is cleaner. Water is cleaner. I think President Trump was an absolute champion on it when he said, you don't have to choose between clean water and a thriving economy. You don't have to choose between clean air and keeping your kids warm. We can do all of it, and we proved that we could. This obsession with wind and solar to me is weird because it doesn't work.
It works. It works. It creates energy, but it cannot be the reliable source for a baseload energy system.
And you need baseload. It's a boutique energy at best. Coal
is a baseload because you can store up 90 days worth of coal at the plant.
Nuclear is a baseload.
Hydroelectric can be a baseload depending on the project. These are oil and gas, natural gas plants. If they're getting the gas, those can handle baseload.
So I read a contract or an application This was out of North Carolina, which, by the way, has a whole lot more solar than Colorado does. And I was reading one of the applications, and it said something about, I don't know if it was reliability or efficiency. Oh, it must have been reliability. What is the reliability factor? And the reliability factor of the solar plant is zero. Zero, because there is always it's like, if the sun doesn't shine, you can't, you have no power. And it may have been the capacity factor. And I actually called a friend at the PUC, and I now retired from the PUC, and he flipped it. He said, "Would you get in a plane that wasn't 100% reliable?" I went, "Probably not." He said, so why would you put your entire state's economy on power that wasn't reliable? He said, I mean, it's a good question. I thought, man, that's a great question. I hadn't thought about it in those terms. Would you get into a car that, it works about 30% of the time? Or would you get in a plane that, just depending on the weather,
it's kind of like,
it works about 30%.
So your drunk Uncle Bob, he's on the wagon now. Is he reliably sober? Well, he won't let you. We'll let babysit the kids.
I mean,
we'll
it's
see.
Crazy. It's a crazy idea. You need baseload power, and I don't know why.
Baseload, for people who don't understand the
baseload
term.
Power is the power that it is reliable. 99, or let's say 90. Nuclear's got a reliability factor of 95%. That means 1,000 megawatt power plant is generating power 95% of the time, and the other 5% is probably it's offline for maintenance. When in North Carolina, when there was a cold snap last year, I think it was Winter Storm, whatever it was. As I mentioned, North Carolina has a lot of solar, but a third of its portfolio is nuclear. And you can actually, people like me, go on to the Energy Information Administration, and we like to watch the power generation in real time, because you can see what's generating and and how much is generating. Nuclear, when it was bitter cold in North Carolina, nuclear, and this is exactly what you want to see, 10,000 megawatts, and it just flatlined like that, which meant during the time it was so bitter cold, nuclear was at 10,000 megawatts producing power every day, every minute of every day during that cold snap. Here's solar. Okay, so about 10 o'clock in the morning, and then it goes up to about 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and then nothing. So it's like this.
Like a little heartbeat.
Yeah, which is not what you want to see on your power. And so
talk to me about...
Nuclear is the baseload.
Talk to me about the reluctance of nuclear, because I see a coming war inside the environmental movement. What I see are environmentalists who are cultish, and they want gold-plated windmills and nothing else, and they want us all to live in caves again. And then I see other environmentalists who go, I want to cut emissions, and wait a second, I can do arithmetic. So those environmentalists who can do arithmetic are seeing the exact same thing you're seeing, which is we cannot get there from here unless we do something, whether it's hydroelectric or nuclear. We will not be able to do that. And they might be sworn off of coal and natural gas, but they understand there's no way to get to where the cultists want to get without nuclear.
Yeah,
and I see a split happening in the environmental community.
Yeah.
Those who can do math and want to get there, and those who I don't know if they really want to get there. I think they believe in what they believe.
I think that the divide is among that there is actually the part of the environmental movement that actually cares about people, that actually believes people deserve to have affordable, reliable power, and the split in the environmental movement would be the Paul Ehrlichs of the world. Think of the population bomb. Paul Ehrlich, Amory Lovins, who founded the Rocky Mountain Institute, lives up in, I think it's up in Aspen, in his compound that has solar, where you can maximize solar, and
right.
So he can afford it. people like Ron Binns. If you notice this, old white guys, really, really old white guys that don't want nuclear power. Paul Ehrlich actually said, and this was in response to the rise of nuclear energy in the early 70s. He was super concerned about it because he actually doesn't really like people, or doesn't seem to. He wrote, giving society cheap electricity is like giving an idiot child a machine gun. In other words, they're going to use it and use it dangerously. They'll do things like,
Heat their homes.
start a business,
start a factory.
Yeah, maybe take a vacation, maybe take a road trip, stuff like that. So Paul Ehrlich, they will prosper, they will thrive and prosper. Paul Ehrlich wasn't a huge fan of that, but there are those guys. So there is that divide in the environmental movement. You have the Sierra Club at odds with other groups that are pro-nuclear, that get that nuclear is going to be part of the solution. I'll tell you where I think you see the biggest divide, though. It's with a younger generation. It's younger voters. Younger voters who, one, can't afford, they can't afford to buy a house because, by the way, the energy that all these policies have driven up the price is going into the price of these homes, making them unaffordable. When you say that, just for clarification, when you have to put in electric water heat, electric stoves, electric home heat, it's outrageously expensive, and a lot of the technology doesn't even really exist on any grand scale yet. And also remember, energy is in everything. So we're driving up the price of everything by driving up the price of energy. So they can't afford the new home, right? But they're enamored with new technology. They are completely plugged into everything. So they want their phone to be charged all the time. And for them, when they see nuclear, and they care about the environment, and they see nuclear and they go, why aren't we using this? They're the ones who are, they figured out the math themselves. They weren't exactly taught it, but they figured it out themselves. I think you'll see even among, say, young, even progressive left, Democrats, you will find them on the side of nuclear.
Because they can do the math.
They can do and it's important to them to have power. Power matters.
And they can have zero emissions electricity.
Right now.
Everybody gets what they want. Say they want.
And that's why you look at the Sierra Club and others, and I'm going to throw it at the legislature. I do not think they actually care about emissions. I think they use emissions as a facade to build out wind and solar. And of course, Xcel is going to do it. They've been given the authority to use the bank of the ratepayer to go in and
they get to. There is no, when I started in this business of trying to push a more freedom-oriented agenda in Colorado, I always thought that the school unions were the 800-pound gorilla. I've come to realize that maybe it's the energy monopolies and their cronies in the new energy world that are really the 800-pound gorillas. Not only do they have power at the Gold Dome, in every city, in every county, Xcel has people working to make sure that they keep building.
Well, I'm no fan of Xcel Energy, but I will say this, having gone into other states, I've seen other utilities that they know they're in the reliability business. And that's important to them, that if the power goes out, their customers are angry, and rightfully so.
Or dead.
This is actually a matter of life and death. People will die if they don't have power. So they're in that. Let me say this last. There are much better actors in that space. The unfortunate thing is Colorado doesn't have them.
Because we enable the bad actors.
Well, yeah.
Our legislators help them. Our regulators help them. All right, last question.
Okay.
All right, lady, what the hell do you want? I'm at the end of my whiskey. So, what is it you want in Colorado? What do you want them to pass? What do you want them to veto? What are you looking for?
It's not just me wanting them. everyone in Colorado should be very concerned about grid reliability. And if the state does not put nuclear into statute and they don't start including reliable power, reliable sources in Xcel's portfolio mix, like nuclear, the only thing I can tell you, I have 2 generators at home. And they different sources. One is a gasoline powered, and the other one is powered with very large solar panels. So depending on what happens,
because you know that the reliability is going down. It reminds me so much of all the science fiction movies. You know, the astronomer is looking and doing the calculations, going, that comet is crashing in here, and we're going to kill everybody if we don't do something. Yeah, sure, Professor. We'll study that. But you do this, and you realize there is not enough electricity for Colorado. There will be rolling blackouts.
Yes.
And people are going to be buying. I've got a generator, and it powers by gasoline or natural gas. And oh, wait a second, those are the fossil fuels, and that's the worst way to generate power.
So right. And so I think about Lois Talktrop back from the fuel switching wars.
Right.
Lois Talktrop, who Democrat, we all love Lois, blue dog Democrat from Adams County, who went on the floor of the Senate during the fuel switching battle and said, I'm going to invest in Snuggies because that's all my constituents are going to be able to afford.
If I'm hearing you right, you would like the legislature to include nuclear energy as a renewable source?
It's not a renewable. I would say nuclear energy should be considered a clean source of power, and it should be one that Xcel should be including its portfolio. If they do not do that, and the state continues on this path to 100% renewables, the infrastructure is going to falter.
That.
It just will. All you have to do is think about what happened in Texas, where 226 people died, 246 people died.
But they say, that was a fault of natural gas.
Two things. One is that wind and solar fell off because they're weather dependent. The other thing is, I'm a huge fan of natural gas, but it's an on-time resource, and if you can't get fuel through the pipeline, you have no power. Which
is harder to do when it's cold. And for people to understand that, I started saying coal is reliable because you have 90 days supply on site.
Right.
So if the train tracks blow up, if the supply doesn't work, you have 3 months to fix it. Natural gas
is an on-time.
If the pipes go down, the electricity goes down. Sun goes down, wind goes down, but good old-fashioned coal and nuclear
are on. And I'm going to say this about natural gas. The other issue with natural gas right now, and I don't think so much in Colorado, but in other states, and it will become a factor, well, in Colorado, it'll depend, is that we don't have the pipeline infrastructure to deliver enough natural gas. So, for instance, in North Carolina, the one pipeline is already fully subscribed. You can't build more natural gas unless you get the pipeline. Guess who's keeping the pipeline from getting? It's the environmental left, the same ones that didn't want Comanche to stay open for its full life cycle. They also are trying to keep natural gas from getting to power plants and getting to homes.
They want us to freeze to death?
They want you on an energy starvation diet. That's why I say, get your generator. So short of that, I have 2 generators at our house in Colorado, 2 in my house in North Carolina.
Thank you for that uplifting talk.
But the generator always works.
The generator always works.
Cheers.
Cheers. If you enjoyed that conversation, by all means, click one of these other great programs. We have the best conversations with the most fascinating Coloradans. And subscribe to our channel. Just click down below and hit that little bell button too. You don't want to miss a single show.